welcome back to Plain Talk here on the White Pages podcast. This is episode 24, Waxing Philosophical. It is June 30, 2021, 8:02 in the evening. Just me by myself tonight due to the fact that all of my usual guest hosts and friends, colleagues, and otherwise are just busy, and I have overworked them through the various things that I set them out to do. So it's just me tonight, all by my lonesome. Fortunately, most of these shows are me shouting at somebody anyway, and them occasionally talking. So, you know, it's not like that much is different, all things considered. So, you know, that's this has got to be all right. So I wanted to briefly talk about the weather, which is, you know, such a wonderful thing to start with, but it's been dangerously hot. And so I thought it might be interesting or useful, or at the very least we can look at some maps, because maps are fun, and talk about how we're all fucked due to climate change. Also, I figured out how to put live chat on the stream for the first time ever, so, you know, I feel like I should be commended for that just on base ingenuity. Or not. I really don't care that much. So I don't know where it was in your part of the country, but, you know, today it was hot. It got up to around 90 where I am up in the northeast. And for large parts of the country, they have still been experiencing a constant heat wave that has been lurking somewhere between 100 and 110 and a bit over that in some places. Washington State and Oregon, for the first time ever, posted temperatures above 100 and above 110 this past week. The heat has been just truly fucking oppressive. You know, people are just collapsing and dying in the streets. It is about the closest to an apocalypse as I can fucking think of. And it's only June, so really optimistic here on the White Pages. Although I'm not sure I'm really known for my optimism. On the plus side, temperatures for most of the country look to be bottoming out as the weeks progress. Now, you can see on this map, I don't know how many people read temperature maps, but the redder the color, the worse it is. The bluer the color, the better it is, at least, you know, heat-wise. So tonight's temperatures around the country for the southeast, you know, looking to be somewhere still in the 70s and the 80s, but at the very least a hell of a lot cooler than it had been. The only spots of lingering, you know, real heat seem to be around the New Mexico, Arizona, Southern California area, but it's typically very hot over there anyway. So I guess good luck, guys. Enjoy the fact that you live in a desert state. I am a weatherman now. That's what we've come to. Overnight, looks like we have a storm front moving in up through the northeast, so thank fuck for that. When the thunderstorm hit earlier around here, it dropped like 20 degrees over the space of like 2 hours. I still have my air conditioner on in the background. You can kind of hear it because it's still like a little warm, but you know, it's radically better than it was, and so I'm not, you know, gonna complain about it. Forecast for Thursday, the heat remains dampened in the New England area as well as the Great Lakes region, which is good for them because there's a lot of concrete and asphalt out there and shit gets really hot. Unfortunately, no relief coming for the West Coast, which remains largely in the middle of one of the worst heat waves of all time, until an act of God, I suppose. Precipitation continues to move in. Thunderstorms getting more severe, maxing out Thursday night and Friday. Friday, the thunderstorms and showers are supposed to cover the entirety of the eastern seaboard, so that will be a great boon for all of us who have been struggling through a super unexpected drought. Fortunately, Friday's highs will continue to be relatively low around the northeast. I am just losing my mind at the thought that it's not going to be so goddamn hot. I mean, look at that blue. Blue is my favorite color, and this is one of the main reasons for that. I mean, it's going to be in the 60s. Overnight lows Friday night will put us down into the 50s and maybe even parts of the state in the 40s for the first time ever. Though, again, unfortunately for the western half of the country, it is still going to be hot as hell. And I'm sorry. I'm just so sorry, everybody who lives out west. Like, I know some of the people who wander around and watch this show sometimes live out west, and I have all of the sympathy for you guys. Remember to stay indoors, drink water, keep yourself cool when all possible. Don't do strenuous activity in the sun if you can help it, and if you can't, you know, God be with you, I guess. Then it continues on. Heat's going to return up into the northeast by Monday. Yeah, Monday it'll be back up into the 70s, and then by Tuesday, the severe low 80s, high 80s, low 90s weather will have returned, which is unfortunate for most of the country that will be once again back in this heat wave. But we at least have one weekend of relief, and in case any of you have forgotten, which I have done several times, Sunday is the 4th of July, so at least for those of us, once again, in the Northeast, that includes New York and New England, and, you know, as far as I think it's Jersey, parts of Pennsylvania, we're going to have a fairly pleasant 4th of July weekend, so we have that to look forward to. One last hurrah before the summer comes in full fucking force and demolishes us, because the sun is a deadly laser. Switching over to some other news tonight. Interesting. It's just so interesting what we've looked up before. This is from our deep dive into Reddit episodes. I don't know if anything is still available from that, but we went to some weird places that night. We discovered a crazy conspiracy theorist just shouting and ranting by himself for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, which unfortunately is probably what a lot of this program tonight is going to be, so I guess I've really lived up to the hype. So let's talk about Bill Cosby, everybody, because Bill Cosby has been released from prison. He is only 2 years into his 10-year sentence, still remains totally unapologetic. This evil motherfucker has gotten out on a technicality. On a fucking technicality. Pennsylvania Supreme Court this afternoon overturned his entire sentencing on the grounds that the key part of his testimony where he admitted to drugging and raping women was derived from an earlier lawsuit by, you know, the woman in question who was involved in the suit that, you know, brought him down and sent him to prison. But during this earlier suit, he had made a deal with prosecution that he would not be prosecuted for waiving his Fifth Amendment rights so that they could discuss a settlement for this woman that, you know, he drugged and raped. But because of that technicality where he had made a deal with this prosecutor, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that it was unjust evidence, that he was not supposed to, like, that evidence was not supposed to have been used against him, that it was legally unfair, and he has been released from prison. So that's super fucking cool. I love that. I love that. you know, and like the worst fucking part of this is that this technicality is actually really important to protecting people from judicial abuse. Like, prosecutors should be held to their word. Unfortunately, this is one of those awful circumstances where a rapist has gotten off because of something which in principle should be a good thing. Like, it's one of those, like, horrific, immoral miscarriages of justice. You'd think that our laws should be set up to protect victims of sexual assault, but instead they have turned around and exonerated the sexual assaulter. And one of the craziest things about Cosby's prison stint, he is so old that they would have let him out on parole for the entirety of his sentence. Like, it's a reality of being that old. You tend not to stay in prison because, like, you're just gonna die in prison anyway. And usually, and in Cosby's case, and this is usually true, what you have to do is just say that I repent and regret my actions, so they put you out on parole. Cosby fucking refused. He just fucking refused. He would not relent. He would not rescind any of his actions or admit that maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't drug and rape women, but I guess that's too much to ask for from America's dad, Bill fucking Cosby. Oh my god, I'm seeing if I can... Go away. I'm seeing if I can find the... Trying to find the Supreme Court justices involved, because I'm just... Yeah, I mean, this is important. Certainly he's not innocent here. Psychopath that he is. And he's a real fucking psychopath, too. I mean, the guy really shows no goddamn remorse. Seems to have no real concept that what he did was actually wrong, you know? Like, the man's just a fucking monster. But... it's just... I mean, look at, there he is, just this old man, just leaving and going into his house. Like, he's still fucking... I wonder how much he's worth. Because I can't... I mean, like, this guy was selling out stadiums up until he was thrown in prison. Like, oh, there we go. Somebody. Nikki Swift. What is his goddamn... Oh, cool. $400 million. That's nice. 400 million. Wow, that is wonderful. This man is gonna just, like, live out the rest of his life in absolute fucking luxury. Oh, that's why he was in prison in Pennsylvania. He lives there. God, what a... Jesus fucking Christ. Real reason. No more interest in that. That is just awful. Ugh. Yeah, thanks justice system indeed. I mean, it's just... Ugh, it's just a fucking mess. Excuse me as I swap between a couple tabs. I wanna believe in America, you know? Like, you can't not want to believe, because, you know, what's the goddamn point if we're all just going to hell in a handbasket? But I mean, it's hard sometimes. It's hard when horrible shit like this happens. You know, when somebody can just wander around and be that powerful and be so fucking untouchable. Ugh. Let's look at the good news. Let's just see what happens if I look up not God news. Good news. What do we got? What's today on good news? Yeah, it's nice. Arctic coal mines are shut down. That's good. Chinese monk has dedicated his life to rescuing 8,000 dogs. This man got a bike and some money from Good Samaritans. I'm trying to, like, make myself feel better, but I'm just... it's just so exhausting. Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's always such an awful realization to be confronted with the fact that America is an oligarchy. You know, we are a nation of the rich, by the rich, for the rich. You know, and that has lended quite a lot of freedoms. You know, I would not, you know, say it is not all bad. You know, it is still possible to succeed in America where it is not in many other countries. But that freedom comes with an incredibly high price, and that high price is that if you are wealthy, you play by a different set of rules. Like, you just have a different playbook that lets you do different things, and there's no getting around that. There's no getting around that, and that's exhausting. for lack of a better way of putting it. It's just fucking exhausting. But alright, here's some better news. This just broke on my phone, which is I have apparently, let's see. Oh, go give me fucking... My phone just said that his... there we go. This is what I was looking for. It's about to just be sad, because there's just more fucking... I have to always talk about this crazy motherfucker. Well, look at that. Trump Organization is being charged with tax-related crimes. So, I mean, that's nice. You know, that guy who was very famously a bad real estate developer who stole lots of money is finally, you know, someone is finally saying, hey, maybe stop stealing all this money. You giant orange lunatic. Doesn't foresee charge against the former president himself. All right, well, I'll take what I can get. I'll take what I can get. Actually, if you really want to blast from the past, I found a video this morning from like 2000 where they were talking about his original presidential run. Fun fact about Donald Trump, he's run for president like twice before now. Originally on the Reform Party ticket in 2000, where, and this blew me, like I knew this, but like it was crazy to hear it out of the mouth of a pundit at the time. In 2000, Trump's platform was universal health care, tax the rich, and you know, no gun control. You know, he was opposed to gun control, but he was for high taxes on the rich and legalized abortions, and universal health care. Radically different set of views from where he is now, and that's part of the party that he ended up choosing to make himself the president. But it's such a wild such a wild thing to realize that, you know, he just, you know, to see the evidence of him really just not believing in anything. Fucking lunatic that he is. I will say, when I was in Chicago a couple of years ago, Trump Tower, Chicago, was my favorite building. It was a very pretty building. I mean, look, it is. That's the view I had from. I didn't see the Trump part of it. I was on the other side of the face, and so I just saw this like gleaming building, and I was like, wow, what a pretty building. And then later, my friend was like, that's a Trump Tower. And I was like, oh, okay, well, he gone. Isn't life a joy? It is a very pretty building. This is something that came with my new browser. I don't really know what the function of this is. Sometimes it's like, hey, do you want to like search with Amazon? And you know, no. Why would I? There's no point to that. I'm trying to think of good things to talk about, but as I mentioned at the top of the show, I have put my staff through the ringer recently. I say my fucking staff, quote unquote staff, the various people who come and do things with me. I don't pay them; they're not staff. They're my friends, and they're kind enough to come and do things with me. But I do a lot of projects. You know, I'm a big believer in creative collaboration. So just as of right now, I'm trying to give people a little bit of time off, because I've got so many goddamn projects in the air, and so many people that I've recruited for those projects. You know, and it's summer, and it's just so goddamn hot. But, you know, I still probably should have prepared more besides the weather. Although, to be fair, my entire, it'd be a shame if it was gone, indeed. I mean, my entire brand up to this point has been, let me just sit down and talk off the cuff about something for an hour or two. So I guess it's par for the course that I really only plan to talk about the weather, but I mean, for God's sake, global warming is such a fucking issue right now. I, as a science-minded individual, of course, am well aware of the scientific consensus on climate change and have no objection to that. I am also a bit of a political fatalist, and really just don't think anything's going to change unless there is radical change at the corporate and government level, and up till this point, I really just haven't seen it. So I really haven't, you know, quote-unquote, done my part. And it's important to remember, too, when talking about any sort of do-your-part actions of climate change, because so much of the messaging around it has been about how important it is that we do stuff, and Civil War, never, please. Here's the thing about the incredible amount of civil strife that's been going on right now in our country. There was an insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. That video is up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/thewhitepagespodcast. You can hear me just, like, really at my most, like, shaken, I think. It was a horrific day. Because I recorded the episode that night, because it just happened to be, you know, broadcast night. I mean, it was the moment where Trump stopped being funny. I will confess to the fact that even, like, right up until January 6th, there was part of me that was like, yeah, but it's still just such a ridiculous concept that Donald John Trump is the goddamn president of the United States. You know, it was just so unbelievable. I can't. I really can't. It's sheer fucking lunacy. And then there was a violent insurrection and attempted coup, and that's kind of when it stopped being, you know, funny. And there is a serious question about the police forces in this country, and there are questions about white supremacy in our own military. You know, there are a lot of people in this country who are in positions of power who may or may not actually support its continued existence. Now, I do actually want to be really clear about that, especially in reference to the military, that the Pentagon and military leadership knows that it is a problem in some of the rank-and-file members of the Army, Navy, Air Force, etc., etc., etc. They are taking active steps to root out dangerous fundamentalist rhetoric within our own armed forces. And so I do want to highlight the Pentagon for that, because I do think, especially in liberal circles, the military is maligned. And I like, whatever you think of our horrific 20-year war in Iraq and Afghanistan, which is ending this year. So, hooray, there's some good news. We're finally getting out of the Middle East-ish. At least that war. I don't think it's the fault of the military class. And I don't think that blaming the military class for what is effectively partisan civilian leadership is fair or just. And so I will always be incredibly opposed to that shit. The police, meanwhile, are a whole other goddamn can of worms. You know, and a lot of the problems in policing come down to the warrior training, which has become dominant in the last 20 years. Warrior training, for those who don't know, suggests to police officers that they are the last line of defense against the lawless and dangerous society that will kill them and their families and their friends and destroy their society. And so they must be vigilant, aggressive, and destructive if they are going to protect everyone. Police officers are trained frequently en masse to believe that they are literally the only thing keeping the country from falling apart. It is a diseased ideology. That is compounded with police unions, which are rotten and corrupt and need to be destroyed. They exist almost exclusively to protect bad cops and to punish good ones, and to ensure that the status quo of policing remains in effect, because police officers retain their positions of lofty power where the law applies to everybody else but them. You know, Chauvin was sentenced this week. He was sentenced to 22.5 years in prison for the killing of George Floyd. The minimum sentence in Minnesota is 10, the maximum is 30. I was expecting the minimum, so, you know, getting double that is more than double that was a real surprise, and it is a step in the right direction. But, you know, I don't believe that if Chauvin, if he had not been a police officer, I do believe he would have gotten the maximum sentence. If there was a video of anybody else slowly murdering a man that the entire country watched, there's no way on earth that anyone would have gotten away with anything other than the max. And he gets to serve all his crimes concurrently. But the state of justice in this country. I also do, since I'm talking about it now, briefly want to address something that I've been sort of percolating on for a while, but which really sort of hit home for me during the Chauvin sentencing and this, you know, sort of most recent reminder of all of that. I have not watched the video of George Floyd being murdered. I do not intend to watch the video of George Floyd being murdered. I I am a strong supporter of citizen journalism. I think it is vital that these things be captured so that evidence can be used to convict murderers and those who take advantage of our society. I kind of hate that everyone watches them. That really bothers me. I don't want to watch 9 minutes and 47 seconds of a man being knelt on and strangled to death. Like, I mean, it's such a long... the first time I heard it was this past week. I heard a sample of it on the radio, and that's the first time I'd ever heard anything from it, and there has been this... Since in this past year, there has been this conversation from black activists and from black academics about this concept of abuse towards black bodies and the way in which we are so callous about that. And I really hadn't figured out what that meant until this past week, when I really was sort of able to put it together and articulate, oh, I understand what you mean, and yeah, it's a little horrific. I don't think that we should be watching people die. I mean, what do you gain from that? I guess maybe the trauma of watching someone be murdered, but I don't. There's this part of me that, this whole part of me that just thinks that it's sort of an irreverent way to treat this man's murder, that we all go watch it and everyone shares it and goes, oh my god, look at this horrible thing. I think one person recording it, putting up and going, hey, a man got murdered, and maybe one person, checking it for fact-checking should be enough. I think the existence of it should be enough. I don't think there's any good reason for me or anyone else to watch that. That's horrific. That's gruesome. That's brutal. That's disgusting. That's such a such a callous way, even as we all collectively gasp and cry out in the sheer anguish and unrighteousness of the action, we're still watching all 9 minutes 47 seconds of the damn thing. I think that's that's like when ISIS used to behead journalists and put videos up on YouTube. It's demented. It's, and again, I want to clarify that I'm not saying that the recording of the video itself is wrong. That is vitally important. It's vitally important that we all be able to capture this stuff and show it and not let these people get away with these things. But at the same time, I also don't think that means we need to watch it, because it's not entertainment, And I'm not saying that people watch it as entertainment, but I don't know. Part of me kind of recoils at how casual we've come about, oh, did you see the new video of the man getting murdered? Because Floyd's isn't the first one. That's the one that, blew everything out of the water. But I don't think that's right. It doesn't feel... But then again, I don't know, maybe if... Boy, now that's fucking depressing. I mean, frankly, I am of the opinion that the idea of a man being knelt to death on the pavement by a cop should be enough of an idea to spark outrage, but maybe the rest of America really does need to see it happen to come to grips with it. Fuck me, that's dark, but it's just something I'm thinking of, I guess. And I don't know what to do with that. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know if I've clicked it correctly with, you know, what my fellow man, what my black brothers and sisters have been trying to get across to me. I don't know if I'm getting that right. But at least for me, I have no intention of... I don't want to watch that. I don't need to watch that. Someone telling me that it happened is proof enough for me to go, yep, sure. It's our inability to take people seriously when they say that they are victims of abuse of any kind, violent or otherwise. You know, we're just so skeptical and doubtful of everyone. I just hope maybe we can get away from that so that we don't have to all collectively watch somebody die. I just think that's wrong. Just talking about climate change before I got onto this. Oh, my neck is killing me because I've been at my computer for days and days and days and days unworking, and because I can't, you know, there's no point leaving the house because it's so freaking hot. You know, it hit the 90s, the real field temperature was up in the hundreds. My poor cat, my poor dog, those animals are just, they're so covered in hair and fur, and I can't shave my cat, and the dog, I'm afraid to groom him because I don't want to hurt him because he twitches a lot. Yeah, the dog had to get a dedicated fan. My poor cat, she sleeps in this one spot by the door of my bedroom, which is next to a bathroom. But the carpet was too warm for her, so she's been sleeping mostly on the tile of the bathroom with her head or paw just on the spot so that she can know that she's there, but she, you know, she can't be on the carpet. It's been so pathetic. I have to keep luring her down into the basement because, you know, it's cool down in the basement. Because she cries and cries and cries when she's up because it's hot. She doesn't know what to do with it. And, like, if that's not really a microcosm of the way that everything's become, I don't know what else is, you know. You know, like I was saying earlier, I'm not really a big believer. I haven't really been a big believer in, you know, everybody do your part, because the reality is that societal problems are usually, by the time they become massive societal problems, are usually driven by factors outside of the individual person. Sometimes they can be changed that way, but when it comes to climate change, you know, what little we can do is not going to have a genuine, serious impact on the overall change of you know, the way that climate policy is addressed. It really is a corporate issue. You know, 10% of climate change is individual actions. You know, it's like 10%, and then from that, I believe something like 45% is industrial, and the remainder is for power and transportation. You know, like your turning on and off the light switch, you know, turning switches off early isn't going to have that much of a net impact because there's so much power that's required just to run all the things that keep society functional. And so unless we want to radically overhaul our society, there's nothing we can do, and that's not something you can do on an individual basis. That being fucking said, this much heat in June has caused me to change some of my habits. Just for my own personal sake. You know, I run on a well, so I've really started being careful with my well water. You know, I'm trying to use a lot less. I'm trying to make an active effort to take shorter showers. You know, if you fill up a water bottle and stick that in your, or not fill up a water bottle, but if you put a water bottle with a rock in your toilet back, you can save on tank water. You know, I'm, you know, letting it mellow if it's yellow, which is a thing my hippie friends used to do when we were kids, and it drove me fucking crazy. Now I'm like, God, I gotta save the goddamn water so that I can cook and drink and shower and, you know, not dehydrate. Thinking about trying to find a way to put some solar panels, you know, either out back or on my roof. Ugh, it's just I mean, it's just so horrific that we've gotten to this point. You know, I don't remember summers ever being like this. Summers were never like this. It's gotten so bad that there's a new caucus in the House, the Conservative Climate Caucus. And I do want to be really clear when I talk about the limited action that individuals have. I do mean that to depress you a little bit. Like, I do think it's important for us all to realize that genuine change is actually going to come from the top down. You know, the consumer only has so much power. We only have access to so many things in our society. If you live in my state, for example, you need a car to get everywhere. You know, Maine is not a state which is in any way available for public transportation. It requires you to own a car to drive. That being said, I am thinking about investing in an electric vehicle. Just, you know, it's like I don't really want to, but I'm sort of just like, you know, I have to. There has to be something, you know, and so what, you know, what I do think is important to highlight for individual actions is that do those things which actually can have a reducible and tangible impact on your life. You know, do your best to survive what is available in your climate crisis, and if we all do that, then we might actually have something of a small impact. But, you know, like there was an article, I was talking about this the other night on the podcast. There's an article I read about a woman who used the same bucket of water to shower in for a week, didn't wash her clothes, ate like a crazy super vegan diet that used minimal amounts of water. You know, like she was just trying to reduce her water usage down to nothing. And that sounds miserable and also extreme and just kind of unnecessary, because like you're just torturing yourself and nothing's going to, like, you're not going to fix the planet. You know, her big message at the end was like, oh, if all of us in our community act, then that becomes the norm and that changes. And no, that's yeah, I mean, that's how societal pressures do work, but you can't press people into taking extremes unless they have no other choice, and frankly right now they do. You know, that's just human nature. And even then, how are you going to change everybody's minds? You know, the Conservative Climate Caucus themselves talk to, you know, like I say all this because it is a common argument, you know, from supposed allies in the pursuit of preventing us all from burning up and dying in climate change, you know, that it's all about individual responsibility, and it's just not. Like, it's just not. We as individuals do not have the infrastructure to switch over to the weather for now, just while I'm instead of just hanging out. I've been sitting on my browser for a minute. You know, but we as individuals do not actually have the mass capability to radically alter our environment. We just don't. The power of consensus is too strong. So what do you do with that? Well, it's like I said, you take whatever individual actions are available to you that can preserve your environment. I have a well, which means I need to be conserving my well water so that I will have plenty of water for when droughts strike. You know, hopefully the rain will persist for the next couple days. We'll replenish some of the water. You know, I'm thinking about digging up my lawn and planting it with moss instead of grass, because grass is garbage. serves no real purpose. And that's really what I can do. Like, that's what's available in my... I'm switching my electric to a solar farm. I am connected to a solar farm. And hopefully, you know, like I said, I can try to put on solar panels and all that. But, you know, there are things that I can do to affect my immediate individual area, which will improve my quality of life and allow me to survive as best I can. And those are the individual actions that do actually add up and do have some kind of substantial change. Maybe I'm just a little bit too pessimistic, but I'm not a strong believer in the unity of people. You know, I've argued before, and I will argue again here, that I do think people are naturally selfish. I do think that the communal instincts that we all like to imagine that we have are learned. I think that there's a good logical reason to be selfish, though I do think there are more logical reasons why you shouldn't be selfish. Well, that being said, people are inclined to look out for themselves. People are inclined to engage in self-preservation, and because people are inclined towards themselves, it means that they are just a hell of a lot less likely to go out of their way to help their fellow man unless something is obviously in it for them and something which they can have tangibly. I think this is borne out in real politic. You know, this is realist interpretations of society, right? You know, we talk a lot on this show about the ideal world, but you know, as I'm looking at this map, it just occurs to me that it shows the actual, like, maritime borders. And we have a lot of, like, water border around Florida, and then very little along the East Coast. And I guess I've just never noticed that. I don't know why I know that, but I don't know. It just jumped out to me as I was looking at this map. What the hell is this saying? Alright, everybody's selfish. Everybody's selfish, and they're going to be selfish, and so if you really want to direct policy that is going to maximize the amount of good that can be gained for a society, you need to do it in a way that encourages people to be selfish in an altruistic manner. Self-interested altruism is the most effective way to get people to be on board with something. For example, here's a great real-world example of what I'm talking about. Vaccine rates had dropped, you know, by an order of magnitude in this country until lotteries and prizes and other incentives began to be rolled out, and that actually did boost the numbers by quite a bit. I'm not sure what the current vaccine numbers are sitting on in this country. Vaccination rates by state. Let's see where we at. So you can see it kind of tapering off. This little bump right there. See, it was gonna start tapering, and then there was a bump, and then it kind of kept going up, and now it's tapering off again. But that, you know, like this last hump, you know, which brought us from the 50s into the 60s, brought us up a lot, actually. You know, our full vaccination rate was down in, you know, 40%, and by the end of the incentive period, you know, by now we're up to 60% full vaccination, which is just incredible. There's my state leading the fucking way. 800,000 people fully vaccinated, 61%. I mean, just right out in front. Good for me. Round of applause for me and all the people I live with in my state for giving a shit. What an interest! And then the next four are like the largest states in the country. So surprise, surprise. Yeah, so it's just all big states: California, Texas, New York, Florida. Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. What a... No, that actually is kind of interesting. The states with the higher full vaccination rates tend to be more Democratic, and the ones with lower tend to be more Republican. Correlation doesn't equal causation. That's the number one rule of statistics, but, you know, just something worth noting, I think. Just some more pessimism for everybody, in case you weren't. Then way down at the bottom of the pack, North Dakota. Alaska, North Dakota, South Dakota. Although the Dakotas are still sitting, I mean, North Dakota's sitting at 38, but... Oh. What the hell's Mississippi doing all the way down here? Should be way lower. I guess because they've given out so many doses. God, look at that. Jesus Christ. 29.8%. You know, actually, I had heard they weren't doing so well. I guess Vermont's overtaken us if we actually... What? This is not a well-organized table. Now I'm realizing that. I retract my applause. Massachusetts is a bit higher than us. And, Vermont... That doesn't actually super surprise me. Excuse me. Vermont has a very robust progressive base, so that doesn't super surprise me that they went hard on the vaccines. I mean, it's the state of Bernie Sanders, for God's sake. Bernie Sanders and Patrick Leahy, you know, I mean, those guys, been in the Senate forever. Leaders of the progressive movements. The Delta variant of COVID. Ooh, they're gonna have intense out. But let's find out the 5 states. Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Wyoming. Well, sucks to be there, I guess. It's good for us, though, I suppose. And that's nice, you know. We are fully vaccinated against variants. I read something the other day that suggests that... look at those numbers. Ah, it's so nice. I read something the other day that suggests that COVID vaccines might actually be effective for many, many years. You know, it looks like the drop-off that people had been predicting, I say people, that pharmaceutical companies have been predicting. You know, there was a lot of talk a couple months ago about us maybe having to get a booster shot for our vaccines. That ended up not having played out at all, so that's a good positive. Hooray for that. Means that our vaccines will protect us long term. Look at that. Look at that curve. I think there's just like a worldwide. Oh, wow. And then something happened there. Something happened there. What happened there? World population. 10% of the population of the world is fully vaccinated. Oh, the planet. Oh, the Earth. What's Afghanistan's looking at? 1%. I mean, actually, that's kind of surprising. I didn't even realize that they'd had. Because I know there's been a real problem with getting vaccines to non-Western, especially non-American countries. So that's actually kind of encouraging. The Alan Islands, Algeria's received none, and look at that, they've left Antarctica out. That's a disappointment. Antigua and Barbuda. Antigua, where the fuck is that? Oh wait, I've got Wikipedia on speed dial. Sovereign island country in the western east of the Americas, lying between the Caribbean Sea. Islands, Antigua and Barbuda separated by... Look at that. 97,000 people. Most people living on... Well, why do you name it after the 2 islands if nobody lives on the other one? Silly. Very silly. Maybe I'll go there someday. We got a Creole language. Isn't that nice? reading for later. Something else I wanted to talk about, but it seems to have... He's trying his best. He will not succeed. I hate to be pessimistic about it, but I mean, the problem with a lot of these deep areas is that they just have become convinced that vaccines are going to change their DNA, and so they're afraid of their DNA being mutated by a vaccine. You know, the only slightly viable argument, as far as I'm concerned, to not... No, there is no... Get a vaccine. Get a goddamn vaccine. Don't even... There's no argument to not. I'm not even going to go down that road, but I will... What I was going to say is that the only skeptical argument I'm willing to buy right now, and which is fair, is that, you know, there hasn't been a multi-year trial. And that is true. And, you know, we are all more or less... We all are more or less part of the trial, but, you know, I know of no vaccine that has resulted in a multi-year trial. Like, the reason why we make pharmaceutical companies engage in multi-year vaccine trials is just to be, like, uber safe, to make sure that nobody gets sued. But, you know, nothing... Like, by the time you get into the human trial stage and past the initial human trial stage, like, whatever kinks need to get worked out have been worked out, and... You know, these people know what the fuck they're doing. And also MNRIs have been tested for years and years and years and years and years. So it's not like it's new shit. You know, it's not spawned out of the ether, this freaking vaccine. So go get your goddamn COVID vaccine. No excuse. You probably have a lottery in your state, so, like, you know, you could win something if you get your vaccine. Which reminds me that the lottery drawing, I think, is tomorrow. So some lucky Mainer's going to win as much money as the number of people who have been vaccinated in this state, which is, you know, I think somewhere north of 870,000. Though what kills me about it is that they still tax it, so, like, they say you're going to win enough money for everybody in the state, but, like, really, they're going to take a bunch of that. Because it's taxes, and because that's the way the world works. Oh, well. Lotteries and the rich. What are you gonna do? Getting here at the top of the hour. We'll do question time for a bit, see if anybody in the live chat has any interest in prompting me in any particular topic for me to shout about for another little while here before we wrap up. So you can see my voice is getting a little bit tired. Mostly because I haven't been drinking enough today. I will admit that. He was so bad earlier. Like I had to move an air conditioner, and then I had to move another air conditioner because the one I have currently plugged in my office studio space needed to get cleaned, and I was just sweating so much by the end of it. I just threw myself in the shower because it was just so much. It's so goddamn hot. Just sweaty buckets. It's awful. Awful, awful weather. I hate the summer. I hate the summer on, like, the best of times. You know, we're well past any kind of tolerable weather. Last year, I was working on the census. You know, while I was working on the census, there was... you know, there was a lot of days where it was deathly hot outside. It was not a pleasant experience. Overall, working for the census was a very mixed bag. The first supervisor I had was just a raging bitch. Second guy was great, though. He was actually super nice and very easy to work with, and always answered my questions in a timely and prompt and efficient manner. My sister also had the same. My sister had that other supervisor who was a bitch, and so can corroborate that she was not an easy person to work with. No questions, no topics. That's fine. I don't mind. I'm talking to myself. Talking to all of you lovely people. Talking to myself, talking to all you people. Hey, I mean, look. Head empty is a perfectly valid place to be. I also, well, I mean, I'm never really head empty, but covered some heavy shit tonight. Global warming, murder, criminal justice. If you're feeling sick, make sure that you lay down in a cool, dry area. Make sure you drink lots of water. You know, try to stay out of the heat to the best of your ability. I assume it's heat and sickness, and if it's not, I wish you well. But these are good, just good tips in general. But also, honey. Honey is good for dry throats. Honey is good for dry throats. Thing I learned from being an actor. Honey and tea. Yep, honey and warm tea. And it's good for dry throats. Good for any sort of throat injuries. All right. Well, I have, I think, come to the end of my ranting tonight. Nothing else is immediately jumping out at me. We have news. We have some news. That's good. That's good. I've sort of run out of news. Something else I was probably going to talk about, but it's fallen by the wayside. Breaking news is that her hamster likes cherries. Well, I'm glad to hear that, everybody. Hamsters like cherries. Alright. I think with that, we are going to wrap it up for this evening. My first solo outing in a while since we were playing video games. Some video gaming might return in the near future. Given that Timmy still remains lost in the ether, I find that I am trying to find new ways to invigorate content. So, I am looking at doing some world building in a game called, let me pull it up. We can do a stream about Oshus the hamster. What's it called? Tailspire. I'm thinking about doing a world building series of streams on Tailspire, which is a TTRPG designer, because I think it'll be relaxing and also is just a good creative outlet. So look forward to that in the coming weeks. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at pages_podcast for all of our latest news and updates regarding any of our future programming or current programming or anything in that vein. Remember that Plain Talk streams every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week, Matthew will be back because we are beginning a brand new series here on Plain Talk. We are going to be talking about imagination and all of its many philosophical ramifications, and seeing if we can't suss out what the hell this beautiful, crazy thing is. It's going to be talking a lot of metaphysics. I hope you guys will tune into that. Philosophy of art and aesthetics, that'll be part of it as well. There's some interviews I'm trying to work out with some special guests who will come on and also, elaborate on topics relating to that. So I know I've been talking about this imagination series for quite a while now. Actually, I think we first talked about it months and months ago. So I mean, it's been a long time coming. So I'm looking forward to it. And the White Pages podcast is currently streaming at weird times. We are planning a stream for tomorrow. I cannot guarantee who is going to show up, but maybe someone interesting. Who knows? But the regular White Pages podcast is currently now airing on Thursday and Sunday nights. We've returned to our original time slot. We are no longer streaming on Monday nights because I have a play that I'm working on, and I can't make up the time for it right now. But the Sunday night streams are returning, and so remember that the White Pages podcast is every Thursday and Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you tune in for that. It's still our regular show where we dick around and have a good time, and you know, don't try to be too heavy. Although last night we got pretty in not last night, but Monday we got pretty in depth on the philosophy of art, which I needed to do before I did the Imaginary stream. But you can also check out our YouTube page at youtube.com/thewhitepagespodcast. I am updating it semi-regularly, so there's lots of stuff like happening, so that'll be fun. I hope you guys will check us out there, because we put a lot of work into I put a minimal amount of work into this stuff, but god damn it, it's still work, and I do really appreciate everybody tuning in and watching and interacting and enjoying our content. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning into Plain Talk, and we will see you in the next one.